Well, Nader Hashemi is an associate professor at the Center of Middle East Studies at the University of Denver. He's joining us on Skype from there. Thank you very much indeed for your time, sir. The tight security is being blamed, at least in part, for the low turnout. But could it be said that people are also not turning out because essentially they're commenting on how the government's been running the country up till now?
Well, yeah, the issue of corruption is very high on the minds of many Iraqi voters. You know, if you look at some of the international monitoring groups that rank countries on a scale of corruption, you know, Iraq is near the top of the list. I think Transparency International ranked it 169 in terms of corruption out of 180 countries. So there's a deep, I think, a sense of despair that, you know, we're voting for the same political parties and politicians and not much is going to change.
Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi is seen as a moderate, and he's been benefiting, of course, from the victory over ISIL. But do you think he, if he is successful, is going to be strong enough to hold together the kind of coalition that is going to form the government moving forward?
Well, yeah, that really depends on what the election outcome is, who the other parties are, whether they're willing to work in a coalition with Haider al-Abadi. I think many people believe he is the best candidate among the Shia political parties because he does have at least a stated commitment for trying to rule much more inclusively. If, for example, the former Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki's party does well in this election, then that, I think, does not bode well for the future of Iraq because of his past legacy of ruling from the perspective of sort of Shia majoritarianism. So I think, you know, what the results are and to what extent Haider al-Abadi can work with a coalition that has the same vision that he does, that tries to transcend the sectarian politics that has really broken Iraq over the last several years, will be very critical.
I want to ask you a little bit about Iraq's foreign policy. It's essentially been trying to maintain a balancing act between the US and Iran. And Iran, of course, has significant investments, both in material and financial, in Iraq, particularly because it was partly responsible for the push against ISIL in Iraq. Given the circumstances that currently are surrounding Iran in the region, do you think that Iraq's relationship with Iran is going to change in any way?
Well, that really remains to be seen. I mean, the new development here that will have huge consequences for the future stability of Iraq is what happens if Donald Trump is able to move forward with this plan to confront Iran's policy throughout the region, to challenge Iran's position. If a war, in other words, breaks out between the United States and Iran, Iraq will be caught in the middle. And so this issue is actually, you know, surfaced in some public opinion surveys recently that many Iraqis are very worried about, because they really are in many ways caught in between a neighbor that has deep influence and then a global power that also has influence in Iraq. And these two entities seem like they're on a war path. So I think that will have, huge consequences for the future stability of Iraq if things continue to deteriorate between the United States and Iran.
Whatever the outcome of this election, there seems no doubt that a new government is going to take quite some time to form. And there is, as we've just been talking about, the external influence of Iran, the US, and Syria and Israel, of course, as well. Do you think that the Iraqi government, when it eventually comes to be into being, will actually be able to achieve anything with all these distractions that are going on?
Well, it doesn't bode well because the country has been broken. I mean, the roots of this go back to the time of Saddam Hussein, but since the American invasion, the rise of ISIS, the corrupt incompetence of existing political parties, all of this does not sort of bode well for stability and for the future of Iraq. Now, there have been recent developments that do, I think, bode well. ISIS has been defeated. There is a sense, at least among some political parties, to transcend sectarian politics. It'll be interesting to watch whether those parties that are campaigning on a non-sectarian, you know, platform that are trying to bring together people from different ideological perspectives can actually do well in this election and then have a say in the formation of a new government. So we're all waiting to see what the results of this election are and to what extent those more, I would say, moderate, non-sectarian parties can play a substantive role in leading Iraq toward a better future.
Really good to get your thoughts on this, Nader Hashemi. Thank you very much for your time.